Welcome to Love to See It, a podcast about our new Bachelorette.
A Mormon wife with a secret life is about to give out roses.
Yes, we are here to discuss this week's big announcement that Taylor Frankie Paul, star of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, will be the next Bachelorette.
Wild, earth-shattering news, truly, at least in our world. And there have understandably been some really mixed responses to this announcement, and specifically, the Bachelor franchise's big, wild swing. And today we are going to try to get into all of it as sensitively as we can. There are obviously some heavy themes that will be coming up in this discussion, so just a warning up top. And I think we are going to try to approach all of this as delicately and honestly and candidly as we can. But also it's a difficult, imperfect conversation to have.
Yeah. And also I feel like I'm living in an alternate reality. Normally that is a feeling that's kind of confined more to the political sphere. And this is really the first time that I've felt wow, my reality TV show is in the alternate timeline right now. The one that you would see in the satirical novel where it's 2025. Taylor Frankie Paul, star of a reality show about Mormon wives and their wild swinging lives, is the next star of The Bachelorette.
Truly,
and you would read that and be yeah, but that would never happen. What a funny little detail to have in this novel.
There is something particularly dystopian about the fact that we have been preparing all day to have this conversation. We've been prepping, we've been thinking, and then we have this massive act of political violence happen right, in the hours before we sit down to talk. And I'm sitting here, it's night, which is already weird. My ring light is washing me out. We live in a hellscape where political figures are being assassinated and people are posting deranged takes about that assassination in order to avoid conversations about gun control. And now let's talk about a Mormon wife who's going to be the Bachelorette. I don't know. I feel insane is what I'm saying.
And I think what Emma's trying to say is that all those things are taking place on the same sphere of importance, the same level of importance. No, it's very weird. We never tape at night. It feels very weird to be.
Exactly.
Love to see it after dark. Instead of coffee, I have wine.
Oh, that was smart. I should have grabbed a glass of wine instead. My ring light is just washing me out.
Actually, Emma has been so stressed about the ring light that we have spent the past 10 minutes trying to figure out the ring light. And that's actually what we're going to talk about now instead of Taylor Frankie Paul.
It's all we're going to talk about. No, I just apologies to everyone watching on YouTube.
I think it's fine. Emma,
fine.
No one is going to feel this way except for you.
Yeah,
You're fine.
It's just really in my eyes. I'm distracted. It's fine. Okay. So we're going to get
into... And another thing about Taylor Frankie Paul is that Emma's ring light is really bright.
It's the most important thing about Taylor Frankie Paul. But before we get into today's news, some housekeeping. We finally chatted about the final season of And Just Like That over on Rich Text. And we will also be putting out a Rich Text episode about the Netflix rom-com, The Wrong Paris, soon. So you will be able to find those episodes and subscribe at claireandemma.substack.com. They're a lot of fun. Maybe a nice little way to briefly escape from the hell in which we find ourselves in.
And if you're not familiar with The Wrong Paris, it is a Netflix romantic comedy about a reality dating show. And there are some plot beats in it that are going to seem really topical. I really recommend checking it out.
Honestly,
it's a very
yes.
odd and prescient movie. So let's get into the Taylor Frankie Paul situation. The news kind of accidentally, unofficially leaked on Tuesday night after some maybe a little bit too revealing teasers that Alex Cooper posted on social media, because the rollout was supposed to be on the Call Her Daddy podcast on Wednesday morning, and ultimately that was the official announcement. Taylor Frankie Paul sat down for this interview with Alex Cooper to announce that she would be the lead of season 22 of The Bachelorette. And originally, the plan was that this was going to be the 30th season of The Bachelor, but they did pivot to The Bachelorette. One of the teasers had them cutting into like a gender reveal cake, and the frosting inside is pink, and it had like a 30 on it. I think that led people to start to get the gears turning that it was actually going to be The Bachelorette. Why do we think that they pivoted to Bachelorette? I sort of thought maybe they just wanted to start going back and forth. They're already doing that with Golden, and maybe having Golden.
I feel like they pivoted to Bachelorette simply because they got Taylor Frankie Paul on board.
I mean, that definitely couldn't hurt.
Because I know Reality Steve had reported that they were like down the road casting for The Bachelor, and that they had also planned to cast outside of the franchise for the Bachelor role.
But
so
who
I
could be as compelling outside?
I mean, you get a major star within your larger network willing to do it, you pivot to The Bachelorette.
Yeah, you drop everything for The Bachelorette. So the announcement was made in this podcast interview. It's like a long, like a 70-minute interview. And there's a lot in there, especially if you are cast to be on this season. There's a lot of tips and tricks, things that Taylor Frankie Paul will definitely give you a rose for doing. So if you are going to be on this season, definitely listen to this interview. Crocs are one hint, but there are other clues of things that she goes for. And we'll be touching on some of the other stuff that they discussed in this conversation. But she says that it all kind of started with a joke. Like, she had made a funny TikTok with audio from Lindsay Lohan 3 years ago. I think we have a clip of the audio.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I'm searching for love. I'm recently single, I think, and I'm looking for someone who I can spend the rest of my life with, or at least the rest of my probation with. A little bit about me. I'm an actress, a singer, an entrepreneur, and I have single-handedly kept 90% of all gossip websites in business.
So this was like a little parody dating advertisement that Lindsay Lohan made like decades ago.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. And it was like a meme. Taylor Frankie Paul did a lip sync to this. And then she reposted it in June with the text, sending this in for my chance as the next Bachelorette. I had like heard her name occasionally being bandied around. I think Nick Viall at some point said she would be a good Bachelorette.
Yeah, Nick had
People were
pitched
talking about it.
I saw Juliette Littman, our friend, posted that she had actually made this same pitch on her podcast in 2024. So I feel like the name has been thrown around. I was like, well, she'd obviously never do that, and they'd obviously never do that. So it's not relevant for me to like really retain her as an option.
I think Taylor would do anything, obviously, but I did not think the Bachelor franchise would ever do it. And I think that I underestimated how concerned they are about their ratings and how much they still want to save the property. So here we are. She says she doesn't know if that TikTok video got their attention, but production ended up reaching out for a meeting and things went from there. Here we are.
She talks about the fact that she then had to reach out for help and figure out how the logistics would work, of course, like with her children. And I guess they have figured it out. They've made it work. We know that they have in the past, for example, with Emily Maynard, like made accommodations for single parents.
So you've gotten this far. You may not even know that Taylor Frankie Paul has children. She actually has 3 children. She is, I think, the only ever lead to be cast who has more than 1 child.
Correct.
And 2, she's going over and above. 3 children, 3 young children. And so we want to dig into some other background on Taylor Frankie Paul before we really discuss, because while many of us are much more familiar with her than we are with any previous lead, especially before they actually start on the show, if you don't watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, if you don't follow that strand of gossip, if you don't watch MomTok videos on TikTok, you probably have no idea who she is. So let's get into it.
So Taylor Frankie Paul is one of the stars, arguably like the star of the hit Hulu show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. She got her start on TikTok when she started creating content with a group of friends who all happened to be other beautiful Mormon moms.
Just by coincidence, just a bunch of almost identical looking hot Mormon moms who are like 22.
Very gorgeous, very, very meme forward. And as their videos started gaining more traction, they became known on their corner of the internet as MomTok. And the core of MomTok included women like Camille Munday, McKenna Gibbons, Miranda McWhorter, and also some of the current Secret Lives of Mormon Wives stars like Michaela Matthews, Macy Neely, Demi Ingman, Layla Taylor, Whitney Levitt. They were all very much involved in like the OG iteration of MomTok.
Yes. And MomTok was a very like self-branded, like very savvy business-wise sort of little cadre of content creators. They all dressed in like the tight athleisure sets, and they had the long hair extensions and the perfect makeup, and they did
Little
choreographed little
dances.
dances together. They did lip sync memes. They did like little pranks. Like the way that I became aware of Taylor Frankie Paul was when I encountered one of her TikTok videos where she was doing one of these running gags, which is that she was like the mother of two of the other women, and that the two of them were twins. And
Yes,
I was like,
Camille and
wait,
Miranda,
is
I
she?
think.
Is she their mom? I'm so confused. That they were doing all of those flavors of TikTok content, and they were very successful. And they became even more relevant in the broader cultural conversation in May 2022 when Taylor posted a TikTok announcing that she was separating from her then husband, Tate Paul. And again, these are all like very young, like early 20s, gorgeous, but married moms. Like that was kind of their brand. Like, yes, I'm 23, but I have 2 children and I'm the hottest person you've ever seen. So this was big news that Taylor and Tate were separating. And rumors began swirling that the relationship had ended because of cheating and that Taylor was a homewrecker.
So on May 25th, 2022, Taylor went live on TikTok to address these rumors head on. And she, in the process, revealed that she and her husband had a somewhat open relationship and that they had engaged in soft swinging, which is like swinging that doesn't involve sex, with some other couples in MomTok. And she said, quote, everyone has hooked up with everyone. But crucially, she did not actually name names. She didn't share which couples had been involved. And it later was clarified that like most of the women in MomTok were actually not involved in the swinging. MomTok had evolved into like a very big group of people, but I believe only 3 or 4 couples were involved in the soft swinging.
Yes, that is what was later kind of settled on. And it seems like it was mostly like kind of group interactions was the idea. Like we'll all be together in the room. No one's sneaking off separately. No one's like having full like penetrative intercourse, but like we're all just kind of like
Hooking up, making out, or like taking showers together. It was that kind of thing.
So fun. So she also, and this is something she had like kind of posted about, but so many of her posts were jokes, like that she was her friend's mother, that I think people thought that she must have been joking. And then she went live and was like, no, it was real. We actually were all like swinging. And she also admitted in this live that she had violated the arrangement within her marriage and within the group by having sex with one of the other husbands. And I think kind of like having a private encounter with him. And she said that they had feelings for each other, but that the sexual encounter had only happened once. And this did largely precipitate her divorce and also just like, threw a huge wrench in the friend group. This live ended up being recorded, clipped, and distributed all over the internet. It made national headlines.
I think this is when I became aware of Taylor Frankie Paul. I probably had come across some of those TikToks, the prank ones that you mentioned, but like I didn't register who these people were. They started sticking with me when I saw this "what is soft swinging" headlines.
Yeah, that gave a narrative to the content that they were making, which was more these isolated little like dances or memes. Suddenly there's like a real gossip narrative forming around them. And so she split up from her husband by August 2022, just a couple months later. This is when she's believed to have started dating Dakota Mortensen. He started showing up on her TikTok, and they became romantically involved. On February 17th, 2023, Taylor was arrested and charged with 3 misdemeanors, including assault, criminal mischief, and domestic violence in the presence of a child. By this time, filming had begun for The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 1. They were putting together this reality show inspired by the swinging scandal, and they had just begun filming when this incident happened. Filming ended up being put on hold for 11 months as a result. So if you watched the first season, after the first episode, there's like a huge time jump, and like people become pregnant who were not pregnant before. Like
very pregnant. I mean, the
Right.
hairstyles completely change.
because they had to take such a long pause while she sort of went through the criminal justice process and began her recovery. But the immediate aftermath of the incident is depicted in that first premiere episode of the season. So the charging
As well as some actual police like body cam
Yes.
footage.
which was also out, like, obviously in the news media at the time. So charging documents state, and you can see some of what plays out, as you said, in the police body cam footage. The charging documents state that Taylor Frankie Paul and Dakota were arguing on February 17th when she threw her phone, a wooden playset, and metal bar stools at him. They had been, I think, out at a party, or she had been
out at a party with other women. It was like a girls' night. She had gotten very drunk. Dakota had picked her up. They had gone back home, and an argument started.
Yes. And arresting documents said that one of the chairs had hit her daughter. This is something that Taylor denies and has denied since, that her daughter was actually hit by anything. She said on Call Her Daddy that she did not hurt her daughter. She said on Vile Files a year ago that they don't think that her daughter was hit because she didn't have any marks on her. To me, that does seem to concede that her daughter was present and could have been hit.
She has
So
said that.
to me,
she has, she has, and she has admitted to that her children were in the home, and that
but
her
not just
daughter,
in the home, but like present.
that her
in the
daughter
room.
was, her daughter was present for at least part of the incident.
So, yeah, I just want to sit with that for a second. We've processed this a couple times because we have covered both of the seasons of this show over on Rich Text, and so we discussed that at greater length in those episodes.
It's obviously
it's really
horrible.
awful. She was, as we said, extremely drunk at the time. That's kind of quite obvious in the police body cam footage. This was at a really like complex time for her emotionally. She was in the aftermath of her divorce and also an ectopic pregnancy that she had suffered. And it seems pretty clear also from watching the show that she and Dakota have a very unhealthy relationship, which is perhaps not that surprising given that it started just a couple months after this messy separation began.
And also, obviously, the separation being in the national news media and splintering her in basically entire close community as a result.
Yeah. So she ultimately pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, which was entered as a misdemeanor. The domestic violence charges were dropped. Her conditions of agreement included supervised probation, participation in any treatment directed by the probation agency, no consumption or possession of any alcohol or illegal drugs, no violation of any laws. And she has fulfilled those since, and has gotten sober and has talked about, getting into therapy and all these things. And in the years since, she has talked multiple times, because again, these were addressed on her reality show, about this incident and what she's done in the aftermath. So we do have a clip of her discussing this a little bit on the Vile Files last year.
Yeah, obviously this is just a small clip. It was a lengthy interview, and some of these clips, Taylor tends to talk in a bit of a circular manner. So a couple of the clips in this episode, I just want to say I did cut certain pieces of them for clarity. So just want to say that up front. But here is the clip.
That night also came up good because I really got like help that I needed. So like I instantly got in classes, therapy, like EMDR. Like it was like a very wake up call that I needed that I wasn't doing. So I felt like it was my rock bottom to hit, to like finally wake up and go get help that I needed. Also to take in my kids' consideration, because I feel like when you're like in a really low place, like I was fine with my ex taking them. Like I feel like I couldn't be a good mom, which now like I hate when they're gone. Like I'll take them at any chance I get. So I feel like you can just tell a difference of like healing. At that point, I feel like when I got all those things I needed, it helped me. And I feel like I'm grateful for that night. So it woke me up to be better for them, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I feel like in a way it helped me to be better because it woke me up. That was like so lost, you know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that night was like, oh my gosh, like wake up. You need to be better. Like get up and do something. And so I felt like, yes, I hold a lot of that guilt and that stuff, but I'm like done having the pity party too. It's like, just wake up and be better.
She also, after this clip, goes on to say in this interview, and again, this is like a lengthy conversation. She says, like, I know I messed up. I was a shitty mom at that time. I did a very bad thing. I'm well aware. But after that is what matters. So this is sort of how she has framed this in her mind and begun to process it as like a rock bottom incident, as an inciting incident for her to wake up, get help, get into therapy, get sober, get medicated for her anxiety, and actually deal with a lot of the emotional pain that she was experiencing at the time. And she does acknowledge consistently that her kids were the people that suffered the most as a result of her behavior.
But she and Dakota did continue to date after the arrest. And after a pregnancy loss, she got pregnant with their son, Ever, who was born in March 2024. A portion of this pregnancy is what we see when we jump forward in season 1. And then in season 2, she and Dakota are like co-parenting, but they continue to have this sort of volatile on and off relationship. And we really see a lot of that cycle of anger and making up playing out on the second season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And on Call Her Daddy, she confirmed that she officially cut things off with Dakota earlier in the summer and that she has begun to casually date. On Call Her Daddy, it's a long conversation, but they do spend a good amount of time, again, talking about the arrest and the incident and how it affected her children and how she has been making steps to be better for them since that. And, you know, this is something I've really struggled with, and we're going to talk more about the totality of what Taylor Frankie Paul brings to the table, but it is really hard for me to, and has been since Secret Lives of Mormon Wives started, to kind of get past the fact that, like, she did something like this in such a way that one of her kids could have been seriously hurt. And I don't at no point have I ever wanted to like paper over that because she's a woman or let her off the hook. But I do think that it's interesting that, like, while we have had leads in reality dating shows like The Bachelor Forerunner, like Who Wants to Marry a Multimillionaire or whatever, and also contestants, including contestants who have like won the show, we have had men with domestic violence or similar charges in their past or allegations. We've never had it come up either with a woman in this significant of a way or with someone who has already very publicly addressed it at length.
No, and it is...
It's something we've never quite seen before.
Yeah, and for that reason, it is like hard to know how to grapple with it, because I both believe that that what she did is horrifying and deeply, deeply upsetting. And I agree. I don't think that you don't get a pass because you're a woman for this behavior. I also deeply believe in the ability for a person to grow and not forever be the worst thing they've ever done. And so that's made it tough for me to know how to talk about this, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think we
Because
both get kind of tied up in knots. Also because I wish her only the best, right? I wish her healing and a better life. But as we've said many times in the past, that doesn't mean that you have to be given this sort of glorified pedestal as the lead
of a
dating show where you're presented
Right.
as sort of an ideal romantic prospect.
Something that I've thought a lot about is does this casting choice simply puncture the idea that the lead of this show is on a pedestal?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, or is a romantic ideal. In a way, it kind of does. And I think, we'll talk a bit later about the way that this casting choice to me seems to fundamentally puncture or alter the mythology that has been so central to the show.
Yeah.
And that is interesting. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I also, the reality is that regardless of whether we think this casting choice is good or bad, it's been made.
Yeah.
And we will be talking about it. And so I think it's both important for us to address this history head on. And also, I don't want to spend every single moment of the season talking about it.
Yeah. And I think something that we are always hoping for is just full accountability and growth and learning. And sometimes it's very hard to see that, just in part because we don't know the people who are cast on the show. And this is sometimes one of the first things we learn about them, whoops, you didn't do a background check, or because it isn't forthrightly discussed or owned. Yeah, I do get tied up in knots talking about it because we do want more than anything for people to take full accountability and to grow and to do better. And sometimes that's hard to see when people are cast who have these sort of hidden histories of abuse or violence. And this is, on the contrary, has been very public. That doesn't mean that she gets a full pass for it. And at the same time, I do hope to see her continuing to do better. And I don't want to, again, yes, spend the whole season talking about nothing except that. It does give me pause that it did not seem to give them pause when they were casting. Broadly speaking, I don't think that they should be casting people who have charges of that nature on their record, because there are a lot of people out there. But having said that, there's a lot more to say about Taylor Frankie Paul, and we're going to get into it after a quick break.
And we are back. So something that we wanted to discuss is just the big question of why did The Bachelor make this choice? They obviously knew this would be a polarizing pick, something that at least a segment of their audience would not be excited about. And I think we both agree that the reason they made this decision was money, business.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
right.
They always make their decisions for money. It's just they don't always do such a good job of that. And part of that is because they have different segments of their audience they're trying to cater to. And then there are people who don't even understand their own motivations for watching. They're always trying to sort of steer this course between making the show so staid that people maybe sort of respect it, but aren't entertained by it, versus making it so wild and chaotic that people view it as really entertaining, but maybe so trashy that they no longer feel like, oh, this is where I'm going to go to see a real love story. And in this moment, you can see them just being fuck trying to carefully walk the tightrope, rip the cards up, throw them in the air. Like, we're going to make the most chaotic decision for the biggest splash that we can think of.
Yeah. And I think what they saw is that the writing has been on the wall for a little bit of time. I think we have seen it as people who talk about this show for a living, that the franchise has been fading into cultural obscurity for at least the last half of a decade. I think the last time we saw it really in the center of the cultural conversation was during like the Hannah Brown era.
Yeah.
And especially since COVID, the show has really, really struggled to find its footing.
Yeah. And Hannah Brown was like 8 years ago. And I do think you're right that was kind of the last time that it was really driving cultural conversation in a big way. And obviously they don't want to keep slowly fading away into nothing. So they needed to really get people's attention. And this is a very effective way of doing that for exactly the two reasons that we've already kind of identified. One is that she is already very famous, and the other is that she is the opposite of their brand or their usual like brand. And that dissonance means that people know about her and they know that she's an unusual choice. And that is an irresistible combination.
Oh, yeah. She also has going for her that she already stars on another show that is under the same umbrella as The Bachelorette.
Kind of a hit show. Like, she's a bankable star.
Oh, it's a very hit show. It's a very hit show. And you can tell that the network is deeply aware of this because they have cast 2 other people from her show on Dancing with the Stars. Like, the network is basically holding on to Secret Lives of Mormon Wives for dear life and saying, please revive us.
They're like, you Mormons know how to make money by being famous. Like, teach us your ways.
Yeah, exactly.
The Mormon mom influencers were lab built by the Church of Mormonism to be famous.
It's so
like,
true.
It works. The LDS faith, they know what they're doing.
And the thing that I've been struck by is just in like a preliminary scoping out of the landscape, this is working. This is going to work, at least in the short term for this show. The number of people just in my own little circle of internet who have said, I haven't watched in 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but I am sat. Or I've never watched The Bachelor, but this is going to be chaotic. I'm sad. I
thought you said I'm sad. And I was like, why are they sad if they're excited?
They're sat with a T.
No, even people who are quite critical that I have seen are largely saying like,
I'll be watching.
I'll be watching the train wreck. I'll be watching the mess.
Either you like her and you're excited, or you hate her and you're still excited.
Yeah, you're excited to hate on something. You're intrigued. You're like, I've never seen something I hate in quite this exact way before.
Right.
Or just sheer curiosity. Like, I can't believe they cast someone like this. How is this going to play out? This is
bizarre. She's so compelling, even though I find her problematic. Like, there are many, many different reasons that could bring a massive new audience together to watch this show.
And we just looked back on Kaitlyn Bristow's season 10 years ago. A lot of people were, including Kaitlyn Bristow, because it was 10 years ago, and it was an iconic season.
True. Oh, God. Really, just incredible stuff.
And so it's very easy to think of Kaitlyn Bristow and to think of some of the analogs between them. Like, this would be like a mega Kaitlyn Bristow season if it plays out the way I think it could, because Taylor has a lot of those Kaitlyn Bristow qualities, but then she has some others as well. Like, much like Kaitlyn, she is raw. She's unfiltered. She's able to be very genuine on camera, and she's willing to dance and flirt, be openly sexual in public without shame. Not in the sense necessarily of like having sex or like talking about sex, but like she's willing to present herself in this sort of sexual way in public. And she has a record of really processing her feelings openly on camera. But she also has certain traits that I think are going to really turn the dial up. Like, Taylor Frankie Paul has been open for a long time about the fact that she likes to do things for attention.
Oh, yeah.
She likes to, and she's not, some people are just like, oh, I'm just being me and people like it. She's like, I like to confuse people because then they're like, what? I love that. I just love posting things that confuse people or shock them.
She likes to lightly troll, and she owns it. And that is
She's a
another
troll.
very interesting quality about Taylor Frankie Paul, is that when she does something chaotic, she'll be like, yeah, I did that, and here's why. And then she'll be like, I regret that, or I don't.
Which is fascinating because Caitlyn, again, I see a lot of overlap, but Caitlyn was not a troll.
No.
And when things played out in that way for Caitlyn, where she really ruffled people's feathers, she didn't know how to really take that. Like, she wanted people to just like her and laugh with her. And Taylor is a little more just like, yeah, I was provoking you for my own amusement and the amusement of the world. What of it? I don't care. I'll just apologize later if you don't like it.
I also think something that will turn the dial up on this dynamic is that she is a professional reality star. She has been through the fucking ringer of public opinion. She has been in that meat grinder for years. What could ruffle her in a fundamental way about The Bachelor?
I don't know. Even people who have been on other reality shows
are like, this is gnarly.
Or like The Bachelor is not for the weak. That's the thing that gets me, is because it really asks you to involve your emotions so deeply. That one thing that I do worry about is that I think that this could get at exactly Taylor's most vulnerable point, which is that she has a history of being in unhealthy relationships, and she has talked about how she falls into them maybe too quickly. Her emotions get very deeply involved, and we've seen how torn up she was over how toxic things got with Dakota and the fights and the breakups. That was really real and hard for her. And I think that's one of the reasons that people who find other dating shows even easier, that's what makes this one so hard. Because when you're really encouraged and coached to fall in love in this setting, it can be very activating of a lot of fears and a lot of previous hurts.
That's true. I think
so. I do worry a little bit, and that's something else we've heard a lot. Like, I'm worried about Taylor in this setting.
Okay, so actually, I do actually agree with all of that. I guess it's not that I think she will be unruffled by the actual process of filming, but I think she, unlike most people we see come on this show who have not had experience with Insta fame, she is much better equipped to field the response that will come to her being on this show. And I think to me, that's, I guess, more what I meant when I said, like, what could ruffle her about this.
That I see that. Yeah,
like
she's developed
aftermath.
a thick skin.
Yeah.
Something she talked about in the Call Her Daddy interview that actually kind of like, I didn't know how to take it, is that she said that growing up, her mom was always very, very blunt with her. We saw that also on the show.
Say, if you've watched Secret Lives, that is not a surprise.
And she says sort of like, oh, well, that was actually a good thing because I'm used to that and I can take it. Seeing how that plays out in other social interactions with her, I sometimes wonder if that's entirely healthy for her, that she learned to kind of accept such harsh words from someone as a form of love. I do sometimes wonder if maybe that has made it harder for her to identify healthy relationships. But she does have this sense of herself that, like, I've taken the worst of it and I'm fine. Like, I know that that's what comes along with being in this position and I'm used to it. And I think that the Bachelor franchise is going to be so different from Secret Lives also because it is this like established institution. There's so many opportunities for her to troll.
It's like so true.
I'm like, what is she going to do?
Format. And she has been clear that like she's seen The Bachelor, but she's not a student of the franchise.
At one point she says that she thinks all the men have to come out of the limo wearing tuxes. And I was like, sweetie, they like none of them wear tuxes. I don't know where you got that impression.
I feel like she's like been a casual viewer. She's been a person who's been at a watch party and seen a good amount of the vibes of The Bachelor.
Yeah, she talks a little bit about watching like Hannah Brown season, Joey season, but not clearly in a very closely attentive way. And they talk a little bit about how she's clearly not as familiar with the format as any previous Bachelorette would have been because of that. And yeah, she's very like, yeah, I won't know what it will be like to be on a group date. Like, I'll never have done that before. And my first thought was like, well, producers love this because that person who doesn't have their footing is very malleable often. Some of our like savviest, most empowered leads are people who have clearly been involved with the franchise for a while, like Nick, people who've really studied the game, people who are really have sucked up a lot of information and they know where their points of leverage are. But I think she might also have that advantage that she's not going to be cowed to be on a reality show. She's going to know that she has certain power on a set and certain clout that is going to maybe allow her to be a more empowered lead.
There is a more equal footing between her and the people who are behind this show. Yeah. Right? Like the show needs her more than she needs the show.
Which is something they've often kind of shied away from. Like, we're not going to pay you so much. Like, we have a roster of guys waiting. Clearly with her, she is more important than any single one of them for this season. There was no roster of women like Taylor Frankie Paul.
That's the thing. And so I do think that puts her at an advantage to like make certain demands, which could be good for like at least her mental state during filming, having some semblance of control.
100%. Yeah. And I think that in terms of just the PR gambit, as you said, it's worked. Everyone is talking about this. I couldn't believe it happened today because I had already planned to sort of not work today because we had an appointment with the specialist in the city for one of my sons.
It'll just be a really slow day where Claire's going in the city to the doctor and Emma's going to work on some prep docs.
And I woke up to chaos. I woke up to like dozens of texts already, or like at pickup, I checked my phone and I was like, oh my God, so much is happening right now. People are texting me, like there are discussions about it in the Rich Text subscriber chat. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then it was like time to drive into the city to help a screaming toddler get his blood work done.
And it's funny because like we knew it was coming. It was very obvious last night that this was going to be coming. Yeah. But I still did not anticipate the level of discourse.
Yeah. I think it's going to be appointment television. Like whether you think this was really wrong to cast her, or you think it's just too wrong for the brand, or you think it's the perfect move, all of those groups of people are going to be really tempted to tune in every week to see what happens because they put their finger on something that is going to be like water cooler conversation, which is so rare for The Bachelor to do. It's been harder and harder for me to get people to talk to me about The Bachelor at parties. And I'm like, I've got nothing else. I don't watch the Mets, you know? Please watch The Bachelor.
The thing. No, it's really gotten to the point where like, just looking at our subscriber chat, so many people in there are like, yeah, my only connection to The Bachelor is that I listen to your podcast.
Yeah. Or I don't even listen anymore, which, you know, fair.
Right. I listen to, I listen to other episodes. Like I don't listen to your coverage of The Bachelor because I don't watch it.
Yeah. We're hearing from people who work in the media who have moved away from covering The Bachelor, recapping it, who are like, maybe I'll recap this season.
Or recap it for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what they wanted, and that is what they are getting.
Yeah. I have to say, like, whether I agree with it from a sort of principled position or not, it was definitely a really good business move. I
have to agree. Yeah, I feel very complicatedly about it from, as you said, a principled perspective. From like, I don't know if moral is the right word, but like from like a values based perspective, I have very complex feelings when I look at it as a business decision. It was brilliant.
And I think, you know, regardless of how we feel about what this casting signifies, I think that we will have a lot to discuss about what it signifies. And like, let's do some more of it right now.
That's
we have
why
more
we
to
got
say.
into this game to begin with, is the truth.
Yeah.
We got into this show in order to be progressive voices discussing a fundamentally conservative property.
And then it got like more progressive. And I think that more aesthetically progressive. And I think that there was a point before the election when I was maybe a bit naively like, we kind of won. Like not that like the show became perfect, but it was clear that the show was mostly trying to appeal to the liberal side of the audience in a lot of the moves it was making. And I don't think that's true anymore.
No,
I don't think will always swing back.
I don't think any culture is trying to appeal to the liberal side right now.
No. So let's talk a little bit more about what this choice means.
Yeah. So as I referenced earlier, there is this question about like, how does this change the fundamental mythology of the show? When we talk about the Bachelor franchise, a lot about the leads being this like paragon of masculinity or femininity, of romantic desire, being like positioned as the platonic ideal of a person who deserves love, or who is like, who would be wanted by the audience and by the cast. Yeah. And it feels like that mythology doesn't fit Taylor Frankie Paul because she's so exposed. Like, I think a lot of that mythology rests on so much of a person being obscured.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think also part of the mythology has also been built on almost this sort of like this sense that these are not people who seek out fame and therefore we know they deserve it. Of course, they all do seek out fame, but it's like the Cincinnatus thing, where it's like
it's the right reasons.
It's like the Cincinnatus like myth where he like, you go into the field and you're like, you, the plowman, you must lead our city into battle because you clearly don't even want to be in charge and therefore you are the best man in all of, and like, I obviously that is ludicrous. Like all these people go on the show because they want to be famous. They're drawn to the idea of fame. But there's always this fig leaf of like, oh, she's a teacher or a nurse. Like he's just a humble like farmer or I guess
salesman.
Humble software salesman. And that allows them to present these people not as fame seekers, not as aspiring influencers, but as someone just like you who was like plucked due to their worthiness as an eligible bachelor or bachelorette, and given the chance to find what they truly desire, which is like love. And for that reason, they have avoided influencers, or even if there is an influencer, they usually want to call them like a social media strategist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they never want to say someone is an actor or an influencer ever.
Right. And yet for some reason they always want to say someone is a model. Like models don't want to be famous. They just stand there looking pretty and someone takes a picture of them by accident. Claire. Yeah. Models have no ambition. So this is obviously not that. I'm not aware of Taylor Frankie Paul ever having any profession or calling or job other than influencing.
And she is not embarrassed by that. She's like, this is my job. She said in the Call Her Daddy interview, it would be really hard for me to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in my TikToks. Right. That's my job. That's what I do.
And that is what ends up being the case for a lot of Bachelor and Bachelorette leads.
Right.
But that is not how they go in. Right. It's more like, oh, you've been presented with all this money. Are you going to say no? That's not Taylor Frankie Paul's situation. She built this career. And it's not like, oh, I wanted to go back and be a nurse, but then people kept giving me money to advertise Cheez-Its instead. So what are you going to do? And it just signals something very different about the direction of the franchise. And we've talked about like maybe that's a good thing. Like maybe the show is too attached to this. Maybe it's a little bit outdated. A lot of other dating shows have done very well by just casting influencers.
I think what it contributes, like their desire to hold on so tight to that, is that it contributes to a feeling of like hollowness or falseness. Because everyone watching is like, these people obviously have some ambition to be famous.
Right.
And so at a certain point, should we just admit that and then say, but they also want love?
Right. It's more like Tila Tequila or I Love New York or like Rock of Love. It's like this celebrity wants love. Like, who doesn't? Celebrities are just like you. They want to find a boyfriend.
Right.
And that is not what The Bachelor has ever been. But yes, we can no longer do that model where it's like, oh, this isn't a celebrity. It's just a dental hygienist that we have plucked from obscurity, because everyone who goes on the show, we all know, everyone in the audience knows, they know what they're getting into. They know they might become famous. They know that if they do well in the show, they'll probably be able to make a bunch of money influencing. So yeah, it becomes this facade, this like, it feels, as you said, like it feels like a hollow front to pretend
and here's
that that's
the thing.
not a factor.
That was possible when the show began in 2002,
Right.
because the model was these people, if they got a little bit famous, they'd have maybe a year where they would do some like paid club appearances and go on like a Bachelor alum cruise. And then we would never see them again. Or, you know, then Bachelor Pad started and they could maybe get on Bachelor Pad, but there was nothing that they could hold on to until social media cropped up that would lead to a different career as a result of the show. So like the bounds of what is possible by going on a reality TV show fundamentally change once social media pops up and once social media based careers become a reality. And so you can't live in this space where that doesn't exist anymore. And they've been trying to for more than a decade now.
Well, we've been seeing them like negotiating this, like as we said, like they would never say someone's an influencer. When Brendan and Piper on that season of Bachelor in Paradise were caught discussing their potential follower accounts, they were dramatically drummed off the beach to signify how verboten that kind of behavior is, to care about your follower counts. But that has become less and less tenable over time. Like you would not, I think, see someone being dramatically drummed off the beach for
because it would
hoping
feel
to get
absurd
followers
at this point.
now. Yeah. We all know that they all want followers.
Right. And I think the challenge the show faces now is that you need to make both cases simultaneously. It's like it's like the baseline is, yeah, there's something in it for everyone here. And then the case you have to make is, but I'm open to finding love. And like the best people who have come out of this franchise, when you talk to them afterwards, all say, I went on because I was bored. I wanted a different career. I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to travel on someone else's dime. And also, I fell in love.
Right. One thing that I thought was really fascinating listening to the Call Her Daddy interview is that Taylor talks about how hard it's been to get out of her relationship, her on and off relationship with Dakota, and how her friends around her, they're also happy for her to do the Bachelorette. And everyone's like, this is really good for you. This is what you need. Like, you need a change. You need something that's kind of going to jolt you out of this and like out of your patterns. And I was like, how many times have you heard in an interview with a former contestant, like, oh yeah, I was caught up in this like bad situation with my ex, or like a situationship, or like I wanted to just like, he wouldn't commit to me, so I wanted to go on the show and like just try to, you know, change the trajectory of things for myself. I don't think we've ever heard that from a lead, because of the way that they have always kind of, first of all, that's not a romanticized arc that they would have for a contestant who is going to become the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. So you never really hear that from one of the leads, like, oh, I was trying to disentangle myself from something.
That's so true. It's usually something that comes out with like someone who hasn't been on the show for 10 years and then they go on a podcast and they're like, well, the real reason. Like I even remember that with Lanice
Well,
from season
Lanice
one.
is like the first
Wasn't she
entry
in
in that
situationship with Bill Maher
I
that she had to
believe
get
so.
out of?
I believe so. And like, thank God for her. Way
Yeah.
to go, girl. But it's something I've heard here and there throughout the years, but I've never heard it from a lead and that I can remember. And so it was fascinating to hear someone. And then there's no padding of like, I went on the season to compete to change my circumstances and get out of this bad on and off relationship.
But
and
I fell in love and was rejected.
I fell in love and
now
then
I'm
I was
worthy.
rejected. No, she's truly like, I'm literally becoming the lead of The Bachelorette partly so that I can stop seeing my toxic ex. Never heard that one before.
Wild shit. I saw someone be like, oh no, is Dakota going to show up on this season? And I really hope that they do not allow that.
Well, they don't even talk about Dakota showing up on the season on Call Her Daddy, but one thing they do talk about, which I thought was crazy, is a guy that she just started dating and she's hung out with him like twice. She posted a picture of him on her TikTok without
Just
his
to be
face.
chaotic.
Just to be chaotic. She's like, I've actually only hung out with him twice, but he's such a nice, normal guy. Like, we connected. He didn't even know who I was. He was like, my ex used to watch this show about Mormon wives. Were you ever on it? And she was like, yeah, once or twice. And he was like, whoa, like so normal, doesn't know who she is. Like she's like, he's great, but it's just casual. And Alex Cooper was like, well, what if he showed up on the show? And she's like, no, he doesn't want to do that. He's not into fame. Again, the obviously wanting to on the show means that you're into fame.
I mean,
So I
she's
guess
not
all the
wrong.
guys going on this season are red flags, unlike this guy. But then she's like, we talked about it. He doesn't want to go on the show. We're just dating casually now, like seeing each other here and there. But he said you should do it. And if it doesn't work out, maybe I'll be there after. I was like, I'm sorry. Are you about to be the Bachelorette and you're going on Call Her Daddy and being like, I have sort of made a plan to meet up with this guy I'm dating afterwards if I don't find someone else? These are the things that it's just understood that you don't say things like that.
Right. But she's like, well, why shouldn't I? She's like, well, I've never really dated, so I thought I should like get some practice before
Of course I'm
become
going to
the
date and like
Bachelorette.
see where it goes. And then I'll go on the Bachelorette. And if I don't get engaged, then like I'll just go back and find this guy again, which is like obviously what people are doing, but it is
they don't say
verboten
it.
to talk about it. You should be as if encased in ice, awaiting from the
for
minute
at
that you
least,
hear
like-
you might be Bachelorette until you step onto that shimmering pavement. You should be encased in ice to protect you.
Yeah, we should just ignore all of the people that like get immediately back together with their exes from college after coming off this show.
I know. That's like the most common, like when you look up former Bachelor contestants, it's like, yep, married her ex-boyfriend, married her college boyfriend, married her high school boyfriend, and married her ex-boyfriend. They were like, I've seen the other men out there, and you're right, most of the rest of them are bad too. So
Like
fair
I saw
play.
one other one, and I am so jaded
Well,
as a
I
result.
saw the best that the country has to offer, and if that's the tippy top, honestly,
We're fucked. Got it. Better the devil you know. No, just
Better the
kidding. I'm
devil
sure
you
they're
know.
all very in love.
So let's talk a little bit about what this says about the cultural and maybe like socio-political moment that we are in.
Yeah, this is something that I was really thinking about a lot when I heard the speculation that this choice was going to be made. And I was like, in a way, is Taylor Frankie Paul not like the perfect pick for this moment? Because she is like the rare public figure who is able to straddle two like very disparate and polarized audiences, which have always historically been the audiences that make up the core of the Bachelor audience, which is women who are ultra conservative and religious, and women who are progressive and like living in cities.
Yeah.
And Taylor is this interesting figure who is coded very conservatively, who comes from a deeply conservative culture, lives in a red state, by all accounts, is conservative herself in her politics. She doesn't really speak about politics, but
there have been rumblings.
There have been rumblings, and cast members have said, like, there are two of us who are not right-wing in the cast, and it's Layla and Miranda. And, like, no one has disputed that.
Yeah.
Like, none of the other women have really
It's very
disputed
Sydney
that.
Sweeney. It's like everyone thinks that she's sort of MAGA, but you can't quite confirm it, but you also can't help but find it significant that she has certainly never denied it. And
right.
so-
Like, I think Jessie is maybe the only one that has, like, sort of half questioned the assertion that it's only Layla and Miranda. I mean, but not full-throatedly, you know?
Mhm.
So it seems likely she's in Utah. Like, this is not surprising.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she bucks certain tenets of the conservative culture that she is a product of. You know, she talks quite openly about the damage that has been done to her life as a result of being in a culture that made sex a very taboo subject, how it affected her to feel like this pressure to get married and have children very early. Like, there is this way in which she is like a product of conservative culture and also subverting it, like, just enough to pique the interest of women like us.
Right. Thus the whole second season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which is like, we are doing feminism by being Mormon and also talking about vibrators. We are rebels.
I think that is like ethos of the whole project of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
But they were very explicitly talking about it within the world of the show in season 2 in a way that was really a little bit self-congratulatory.
Oh, certainly.
But yeah, and like that is not entirely at odds with like certain, like the MAGA coalition is
unfortunately wide.
Yeah, like it is a minority, but it is a diverse minority of people who are like hardcore evangelicals and also people who are maybe not hardcore evangelicals, but are sort of culturally conservative in a way that looks more like Taylor and her family, that, you know, maybe some of those social issues, they're like, that's what our life looks like. People are having, you know, she's got kids with, you know, 2 men, one of whom she wasn't married to. Like, it's just a little bit messier than maybe what a hardcore conservative Christian would think was appropriate. But we're still fundamentally just like white conservative people who were steeped in this sense of how the world should work. And yeah, I think that part of what makes her appealing to women like us is just the classic, and this is what I think makes you say that she's like a perfect pick, is that it is kind of the classic Bachelor thing of like, there is a fascination with the way that a show like Mormon Wives, a figure like Taylor, a show like The Bachelor, especially as it was like 10, 15 years ago, the way that it represents this sort of like hegemonic, like white Christian American culture that we recognize as being both profoundly harmful in many ways, and that we want to push away or deconstruct, but that we also know is very powerful. It's all around us. It's in the water. And so there is that like both the comfort of familiarity and also like the fear and the discomfort that we're trying to kind of
repulsion that makes us want to like watch and also talk about it. I earlier when you and I were chatting, I compared Taylor Frankie Paul to Emily Maynard. And I think that on the face, like a lot of the ways in which they act, like they are very, very different. Emily is like ultra composed and poised, and that was kind of her whole thing. But she's also someone who I think straddled those two audiences. Like she had these like moments of like empowerment, speaking up for herself, being like very self-possessed, and also all of these markers of that like deeper conservatism, the blonde like Fox News anchor hair, the Southern twang, the like being a young mother, and like her whole backstory. I mean, she's very, very evangelical.
Yeah.
And yet she had this appeal. I see Sean Lowe as another fundamentally conservative figure who has these little markers that during his season really managed to appeal to a more progressive audience as well. And so I do think that's sort of like the magic trick that The Bachelor has historically always played, and the way it's actually managed to be a product that straddles these like very politically disparate audiences.
Yeah. In a way, she is kind of what they're always looking for, which is someone who is sort of aesthetically presents as what the presiding vibe of the country is, but there's nothing you can really pin them down on that would be too polarizing. Like kind of the center right to center left with a heavy emphasis on like ideally just apolitical.
Yeah.
Like that's their normal range. I do think that from what we've heard, it's possible that her politics, if she holds them firmly at all, are further to the right. That is kind of what many people, I think, especially in business, are thinking is kind of the mood of the country right now. Like Trump won, MAGA is king. That's the vibe we should be trying to channel. But at the same time, you can't really pin her down. Like she's never really said anything so specific politically. In the interview, I think it's interesting. This is sort of how she tends to approach hot button issues, is that she's almost so open-minded in how she responds that you're sort of like, well, what do you think? You know?
Yeah.
She's like, religion, I don't know. I'm Mormon, but like, I would love to learn about other faiths. And, you know, and if he doesn't have a faith, I think that's also a faith in a way. And it's great. And I love it. And I'd love to just learn more about that. It's not that I disagree with that. It's just that like, it's that
she's hard to pin down in that way.
She's hard to pin down, and it doesn't read as sort of like that sort of bigoted conservative, like, oh, she's intolerant, right? Like it comes across as quite tolerant.
It's in fact quite different from like another figure that I saw people comparing her to, who is Maddie Pruitt, someone I often say is the most dangerous person to ever come out of the Bachelor franchise. And I think that the two of them are actually quite different, because Maddie used the show as a launch pad, and even when she was on the show, as a way to like proselytize,
right?
And
well, she needed to like in a
like
way look more normal in order to more effectively proselytize. And I think Taylor Frankie Paul everything is about what she's signaling aesthetically about the conservative mood of the country, whereas she doesn't seem to have herself an ideological agenda whatsoever.
Right. So what she said about religion is she almost expresses that like she kind of hopes to not date a Mormon, but she's still open to Mormons because she is a Mormon. But this guy doesn't have to be a Mormon. She says, I do preferably want someone who does believe in God, because when you're raising your children, it can get confusing when one parent doesn't and one does. And I do think about those things. But I'll try to get to know them, and I am open to hearing their side of it. And she says, I've been told, look, you believe so firmly in something, and I can respect that. But there's also, I don't believe in it, and maybe you can respect that because we both don't have proof on it. And she ends this by saying, I don't really care what religion you are. How do you treat other people? That's what I look at.
Right. And if that's the most specific thing that we're ever going to get on her politically adjacent views, then yeah, it's really hard to sort of pin her down on something there. And yet it does seem to signal sort of a conservative mood taking hold. Like this is not, and you know, that goes deeper in several ways. I mean, we should talk about like the race and class elements here. We've definitely seen criticism centered around the fact that she isn't quote unquote classy, which is like a class adjacent term. Like,
yes,
obviously, like class is adjacent. Classy and class are adjacent. But like when people are called out for not being polished, for not being classy, this is kind of lowering your brand by associating with someone who's so trashy, who's so not classy. What we're seeing is that The Bachelor is historically basically an upper middle class, maybe middle class to upper middle class show.
Yeah. I mean, I think about even just what we see during hometowns, where the vast majority of homes that are visited are these like beautiful, white, open, fairly large, like suburban homes. And if one isn't available, they will often rent an Airbnb and never acknowledge it as not the family home, right? Like there is like a veneer of wealth, attainable wealth, but wealth that is always sort of hovering over everything. I remember Jamie Otis on Ben Flajnik's season is one of the only contestants really that I can remember where being poor was like a central part of her storyline, and not in a way of just like, and now I have overcome it and I am so quote unquote classy as a result because I have like risen above.
Yeah, well, and as a result,
background.
she was kind of presented as sort of unpolished, pathetic, like not really worthy of advancing on the show. Whereas like Desiree Hartzog was sort of the Cinderella Bachelorette, who came from this tough childhood, but now is like a beautiful, polished wedding dress like designer. And that was sort of her. It was all spun in a way to show that she had really achieved this like level of
this
genteelness.
Class ascension.
Class ascension, exactly. And this is not that. Taylor Frankie Paul is not poor. Like, she makes a ton of money, obviously.
Taylor Frankie Paul is nouveau riche.
Yeah. So there's like a certain kind of class coding that goes along with that. Like,
it's also interesting because this dynamic has even been a topic of conversation within Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. In season 1, there is an argument that happens, I think, between Demi and Taylor over the fact that Demi referred to Taylor as white trash.
Yeah.
So like there, and that like that is concerning for the brand of MomTok.
Yeah. Like you're too trashy. It's a problem. And her resume has a lot of those like sort of, I guess, working class coded like markers. Like, she has children with different fathers. She has a history with domestic violence charges, divorce. I'm not aware of her having any like college degree or, again, like professional background outside of influencing. Like, these are all things that are kind of like the opposite of these things are presented to show that people are classy and come with like the requisite pedigree and polish. And she has all of these marks against her in the sense that like she is too low class to be on the show. It's a very historically upper class coded space. We've never seen a lead come in with this. It would be that like kind of out of step with the prevailing look and class coding of the show in this way.
Yeah.
And so, like, part of me wants to be like, oh, it's very classist that people are reacting so strongly against her perceived lack of class, her lack of polish, that like, oh, you have to have all these signifiers of being like a professional or upper middle class person in order to be seen as like desirable and worthy of love or as like a good person. At the same time, she is obviously only able to be the lead with this resume because she's white.
Yeah. There is no person of color who would be able to transcend class coding in order to get this job.
Yeah.
It wouldn't exist.
And I know we have been thinking about this, but Rachel Lindsay, of course, put it really well in a video she posted to Instagram. So we're going to play a clip.
And for the people who say you're not going to watch it, You are going to watch it. Now, I know I haven't been, and I've been one who has promoted and pushed diversity and inclusivity in this franchise, but they never quite got it right. I don't want to hear you complain about how you wish for the old days of The Bachelorette, right? Because when they gave you that standard, and the only difference was they looked a little different, the viewership went down. Not all of y'all stopped watching, but a lot of you did, right? So maybe this is the new diversity and inclusion for the franchise, right? Because we've never had a bachelorette who has a past of soft swinging, who has multiple baby daddies, who's been divorced, who's been arrested, who has accusations of domestic violence. I mean, I'm sure there's other things I can't remember, but the list goes on and on and on. You think a person could look like me with that kind of resume and be the lead of this franchise? No. And I'm honestly glad they don't. Needless to say, I'm still gonna watch. It's going to be a hot-ass mess, and I'm here for every bit of it.
Yeah, worth listening to Rachel's whole video, but I just clipped a piece of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's making a very correct point.
Yeah, I also appreciated her kind of pointing out that they have been trying really hard to put together successful, love story-based but dramatic seasons with lovable girl next door, gorgeous, women of color. And the show has been suffering. And so clearly, and this is like absolutely breaks my heart, but like the show, the production, the executives are looking around and they're saying, we can't have women of color lead the show. They don't sell. You know what would sell?
A hot-ass mess.
A hot-ass mess as long as she's white. And people will say, yeah, I want the old classy Bachelorette back. But they made seasons like that did not do well.
People didn't want.
Yeah. And some of those seasons I had my own issues with how they handled certain things, and I know Rachel did as well.
As Rachel also says in that clip, like, they never got it quite right. There's been a lot of ways in which the show failed people of color, and specifically women of color, including Rachel herself.
But they cast some wonderful women that I really loved watching their seasons, and they were not ratings hits. And they're making a business decision to chase whiteness again. And I think that does sting, that is the direction that they feel it needs to take. And it seems like extra clear that it's such a retrenchment because they're willing to in a sense like change their standard so much from what would have ever been permitted in the past in order to highlight this woman, when all of the women of color had to be so polished, so perfect. And it's almost like culturally, what if like they're like, oh, well, obviously the ideal now is not an educated, smart, poised, accomplished woman of color. It's a chaotic white woman with like domestic violence charges and a messy personal life. Like that is better than these like extremely put together and competent
and accomplished,
and lovely Black women, Asian women. Like this is a better choice. This is who should be on that pedestal. Like that signal is unsettling to me.
Yes. And also, I think quite indicative of where we are as a culture, and something that, we've interviewed and read the books of a handful of scholars who study reality television. And a lot of what is written about is that, like, yes, reality TV can create culture and reify culture, but largely it reflects culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I look with like a realist's eye on where we are as a culture, we are in a moment of conservative cultural ascendance, and especially in the space of women's media.
Yeah.
And so I guess something that I'm thinking about, and again, I don't think that like Taylor Frankie Paul has ambitions to be the spokesperson of like the MAGA women's movement. Like I don't put that on her. I think this is more speaking about the signals that we are getting from this choice and from the world around us. Something that I do feel strongly about is that in this moment, we really need progressive voices who can like adequately pick apart what we're seeing and take it really seriously. Like take the conservatism that we are seeing in the women's media, women's pop culture space really seriously, because there is a lot of alarm bells inherently ringing about the manosphere. And I think what can be a bit sneakier is
the
this, like,
womanosphere.
The womanosphere.
The womanosphere.
Yeah.
Emma,
you know
Evie
that magazine.
The other day on Substack, fucking Evie magazine, somehow in my algorithm, Evie magazine ended up there.
Evie magazine's on Substack?
Everything's on Substack, man. Yeah, it's I was served an article that was just like, my husband got a vasectomy and it ruined my marriage. Because obviously, if you can never have a child, it ruins your sex life. And women should think more about that before their husbands get vasectomy. I was like, what are you talking about?
Okay. Well,
what are you talking? It sounds like you didn't want your husband to get a vasectomy. And now you're going out and being like, everyone be aware. If your husband gets a vasectomy, you won't be able to get pregnant again. And it will ruin your life.
She
you
must
will
feel
get
real
divorced.
bad about the IUD.
Oh my God.
I mean, they are coming for
like,
birth
this
control
is bleak.
next. So that's actually feels very on the nose.
Well, apparently they're coming for vasectomies too. They're like, you will get pregnant. I don't care if you want to, your husband wants you to. There's going to be no way to stop it.
We will offer zero care for that child once it's no longer a fetus.
Yeah,
and
so
then we will send them off to school to just get shot. That's the world we're living in.
So I'm really worried about the manosphere and the womanosphere of it all. And I'm
like, is this our corner of the internet? Is the way that we can, like, like, I don't know. Like, is there a value in having a competent, interesting, inquisitive conversation about what we're seeing in these?
And if I hear of one
properties.
happening, you'll be the first to know. This is what happens when we tape at 10 at night. I'm like getting slap happy.
Same.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, it feels in a way I feel
overestimate our own importance, to be clear.
Cultural criticism has literally never been more important. But seriously, there have been a few years where we were just like,
what is the point of us?
I mean, and that's great. We were like, I would love to evolve myself out of existence. But no, seriously, like what I was really wanting to say is that once I became aware that my words might have an effect on the world around me in some small way, I was like, well, if we can like shift things, then we should make The Bachelor do better things, and then the world will be better. And I think that is part of it, because as you said, reality TV does influence people. And so if you can influence reality TV to influence people better, great. But I think that it's more important and more achievable to create a really vibrant and inviting conversation around what those pieces of media are telling us and whether they are things we should fully buy into or not. I think that's more important than whether, the show does everything exactly the way we want to, because even if we made The Bachelorette perfect, but people were out there holding on to toxic beliefs about women's roles and about race and gender identity and all these things, that's not what's most important to me, that we fix The Bachelor and the world should burn. So the world is kind of burning right now, and so
we're going to talk about
we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about The Bachelor, and I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant to how we think about the whole world.
I agree.
That's always been the case. Anyway, Taylor Frankie Paul. What a shakeup.
What
a shakeup.
No, I find myself just gripped by this choice. I, like Rachel Lindsay, am sat.
Yeah.
I don't know. None of us know what this is going to look like. Is it
Yeah.
going to be deeply compelling? Is it going to be messier than anything we could imagine? Is it going to be all of the above? Is it going to be horrifying? Like, we literally don't know.
Part of me is like, is this going to be like almost a Claire Crawley season where there was almost too much lead up and then she was gone in 3 episodes?
And then suddenly they're just like picking a random woman off the street.
They're just like, is there another single Mormon wife? Is there another husbandless wife that we could?
They'll have to go to Latia.
Or Layla. Is Layla single?
I know Layla's dating Chase McWhorter's younger brother now.
What? Okay,
At least that's what Instagram tells me.
I can't be casting The Bachelorette if I don't keep up. Yeah, I think that there is very little chance that it will be a standard season. So I think that another thing is that because she has no past on the franchise, that is something that historically leads to kind of chaotic seasons, not always in a good way.
But also sometimes in a fun way. Like I am interested in that, like, different things than one might train themselves to optimize for might work with Taylor versus like someone who understands the strictures of the show.
Right. Like I doubt that she is going to. A lot of leads kind of understand that there is a sort of mold they have to conform to that is like The Bachelorette. That's one of the things that made Caitlyn really stand out, is that she didn't really do that. And not every lead does it, but like I think Taylor is really not going to do that.
Really not going to do it. I mean, just let's go through some of the things that she said with regards to like the choices she wants to make and what she's looking for in the Call Her Daddy interview. First of all, she wants them to cast older. She said late 20s is the youngest person. She's 31. She said late 20s is the youngest. She'll go.
She said preferably 30s.
Yeah, like 28 to 42, preferably in their 30s. So more men in their 30s. Love that. She has been very clear that like if she ends up with someone, they will be moving to her. She's like, I have 2 baby daddies. Like I share custody with them. I am going nowhere. This is where I live. You will be moving to me.
Yeah, like just on a practical level, it does make it difficult to convince 2 baby daddies
to move out. Yeah, she's like, no, this is what it is. Also, she films a show that's based in Utah. That is continuing. Alex asked her like about career, and she's sort of like, I don't really care as long as they are doing something.
Yeah, as long as they're driven. She doesn't necessarily want an influencer, but he does have to be willing to be in her TikToks because that's her job.
She's down to remain the breadwinner. She has no qualms about that. Like,
but she does say like, I don't want to be the mom and the dad. And like, I have to wait until the kids go to bed to take a shower and that sort of thing. I was like, I would really hope that the baseline is that your partner would be of some help around the house if you were living together. I think that's what she's saying.
No,
she's like, I hope that he will watch the children for 15 minutes while
I literally need someone to do something because, and she makes it very clear, like obviously the fathers of her children are very active, but she's like, when they're with me, I am the only parent. So I just want literally another body.
Yeah, you need bodies. She is way outnumbered.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a lot.
You can't take a shower if you don't have another adult in the home. And she says that she will give a rose to someone who isn't her physical type but has a great personality because she thinks physical connection can build over time. And she does say that one thing she won't do is the life of the party guy. She's like, I can't do it. I can't do the class clown. She actually says she is drawn to that kind of person, but it hasn't worked out for her.
A lot of room for some chaos there.
Yeah, she also says that one thing that would lead her to like definitely send someone home immediately is if she senses that they're like cocky, basically, like too full of themselves.
Which, look, I would love a Taylor moment where she like finds out a guy is full of shit and just sends them packing.
I mean, she's saying so much that I'm like, It's gonna be very easy to, like, almost chart everything she says onto what happens they went through, like, all of night 1. They were like, "What kind of outfit would you like?" She's like, "I would do, like, jeans and a T-shirt is cool, like, you could be wearing Crocs, that's fun, like, I love that."
I'm like, okay, so men are going
And
to
they're
show
like,
up in
"Okay,
Crocs.
so all the men are gonna show up in Crocs." She's like, Alice asked how she would feel about a man doing a striptease, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, you definitely get a rose." Okay, so we're gonna see stripteases. I was like, "Stop giving them ideas." You're, like, producing the show in a way that is going to make it very hard to produce the show.
Yeah, like, but it is funny because Taylor makes it very clear, like, she'll be into a gimmick as long as it's amusing to her.
Well, also, yeah, everything that Alex said, she was like, "Yeah, that person's getting a rose, 100%."
Except if they won't be in TikToks.
I just think someone's going to come up and do one of these things that she said would definitely lead to a rose, like pushing up a stroller and saying, "I'm ready to be a stepdad." She's going to get the ick for some related or unrelated reason and send them home. And they're going to be like,
"You said you liked this.
You said you'd be into this."
She also says that she is like not going to be forced to get engaged if she doesn't feel ready for it.
She basically is like, "They told me it was fine if I don't pick someone. If I don't meet that person, it's fine."
Yeah, she's like, "I'm not going to do it if I don't feel ready." And
they're doing so many things you just would never do in the promo.
It's also so interesting because the way she talks about the engagement in the way that like we all know it to be true, which is that it doesn't really matter. Like you're engaged and then you start dating someone, you can always break it off. And she like says that point blank. She's like, you're like engaged, but then you date them and you can always like leave them.
Well, that's the thing. I do believe that she wants to find a boyfriend. And also she is so honest about how seriously that means she specifically takes finding her life partner on this show in ways that are so forbidden in Bachelor history, being like, "I'm going to meet up with this guy I'm dating. If it doesn't work out afterwards, we could get engaged and just break it off. It's just an engagement." Like, the engagement is supposed to have stakes, right? It's supposed to be like, "Will you propose? You only wanted to propose one time in your life. You only wanted to accept a proposal one time in your life." Like, none of that is part of the narrative that she's putting forward. She's just like, all those sacred Bachelor cows are meaningless to me.
Also, Neil Lane must be like crying when Alex asks her about an engagement ring. And she's like, "Oh, I haven't really thought about it, but I'm just like want something really simple. I don't really care. I might lose it. Just send me one from Amazon." I mean,
yeah.
Her one specification is like not extravagant.
Yeah. But they're like, maybe you should get 2 cheaper rings in case you lose one.
Neil Lane is like, "Wait, so no pave?"
He's melting down his rings and turning each of them into 2 rings. We should wrap up because we have talked for such a long time about a Bachelorette casting announcement.
No, well, we'll wrap this up here, but I think that this is going to be interesting. It's not going to be boring. And I also just want to say that if there are people, and I know there are people in our audience that are disappointed and frustrated and want to opt out as a result of this casting choice, to which I say more power to you. You are always allowed to do that. And like, we support you.
Yeah.
Right? Like if something's not serving you, do not engage with it. We live in a very tough and dark world.
Yeah. And obviously we have complicated feelings about it as well, but I do think that Taylor is a person who in many ways is very well-meaning, wants to be better, wants to be kind to other people, and
I mean, she's been very, very compelling on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
And I think she makes great TV. And I think that all of the troubling indicators that this decision contain also might lead us into more revealing conversations about what's going on with this country, because I do think they kind of had their finger on the pulse with this one, and the reaction bears that out. So
Stay
as conflicted
tuned.
as I am as like a person, I do think there's going to be a lot to dig into with this season, and I think it's going to be riveting, honestly.
I agree. And on that note, that is it for this episode of Love to See It with Emma and Claire.
Love to See It is a presentation of Odyssey. The show is produced by us, Claire Fallon, and Emma Gray. This episode was edited by John Bahar. Our theme music is by Tamar Haviv, and our art is by Aaron Nestor.
If you like our show, remember to follow us, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, and of course, spread the word to all of your friends about Love to See It.
Maybe in a 70-minute sit-down with Alex Cooper on Call Her Daddy.
One can dream.
If you want to get in touch, you can email us at claireandemmapod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on TikTok at Love to See It Pod and on Instagram at Claire and Emma Pod. And you can find our newsletter Rich Text on Substack at claireandemma.substack.com. I'm also on Blue Sky at Emma Gray and on Instagram at Emma Lady Rose.
And I'm at Claire E. Fallon. Special thanks to the team at Odyssey, Eric Donnelly, Kate Rose, Moira Curran, Melissa Wester, and Hillary Schiff.
We'll be back soon.
Can you